Hello, greetings. I am Edward Miller, citizens of digital entertainment. Today, I have not come to speak to you of an evolution, but of an exhumation. We stand before EA Sports FC 26. To the untrained eye, it is the pinnacle of sports simulation. For those of us who analyze systems from their internal architecture, it is software saturated with noise that barely manages to maintain coherence under user pressure. But what is FC 26? Answer: it is not a simple football game. It is a financial services platform with an aesthetic layer of grass and sweat. It is fascinating and at the same time terrifying to observe how software can behave so erratically that it seems to have an instinct for self-preservation. There are days when everything goes well, no glitches, but mostly it tends to go very wrong, corrupting entire career mode saves, making them useless, or altering player physics, making them useless, or altering player physics. We are looking at a product that, after the second week of its launch, was patched into unrecognizability. EA does not fix its games, it mutates them. What you buy in September is not what you play in February. It is a leonine contract where the user pays full price for the privilege of being an unpaid beta tester in a massive behavioral psychology experiment. To understand the disastrous present, we must analyze the breakup. The name change from FIFA to FC was not an act of creative rebellion. It was a financial divorce of absolute coldness. For decades, the FIFA acronym was the gold standard, but the hubris of the International Federation clashed with Electronic Arts' greed. Asking for $1 billion for 4 letters was the perfect pretext for EA to go independent. But what did we, the users, gain from this supposed freedom? Absolutely nothing. The name change was the greatest gaslighting operation in the history of interactive software. They promised a new era, a blank slate, but under the hood, the Frostbite engine remains the same clunky contraption originally designed for war shooters, desperately trying to process the physics of a leather ball without the player models merging into an amorphous mass of polygons. EA saved a fortune in naming rights, but instead of reinvesting that capital into a new engine built from scratch, one that truly understood human movement, they injected it into their marketing machinery. They sold us the change of initials as a revolution, when in reality it was a cost reduction disguised as cutting edge. It is the equivalent of renaming an airline whose planes have metal fatigue, hoping the passengers won't notice the engines are still smoking just because the logo is new. There was a time, ladies and gentlemen, when EA seemed to still have a vital pulse beyond the bank account. If we go back to FIFA 17, we find a milestone that today seems like science fiction: The Journey. The story of Alex Hunter. It wasn't just a game mode, it was a statement of intent. EA was investing in cinematic narrative, top-tier performance motion capture, and an offline experience that justified the entry price for the casual player looking for a story. There was an ambition to elevate virtual football to the category of human epic. Back then, the user could feel that their time was respected by content that had an artistic purpose. Today, that ghost of ambition has been exorcised by the company's accountants. Career mode, which should be the heart of simulation for purists, has been relegated to a dark corner, covered in interface errors that persist year after year. Why? Because Alex Hunter didn't sell packs. Because a player enjoying a coherent narrative is a player who isn't in the virtual store spending real money to get a card with 2 more points of speed. The death of the journey was the end of the era of the game as a work of art and the beginning of the game as a glorified slot machine. Let us now enter the technical bowels. To understand why the game breaks, one must understand how it is built. The development of the FC saga is not a process of creation. It is a process of sedimentation. EA Sports builds on top of old code layers upon layers of algorithms dating back nearly a decade, trying to interact with the new demands of the current console generation. It is a technical miracle that the game even boots up. The result is what we see: errors that are not accidents, but symptoms of structural exhaustion. Let's talk about data corruption. It is unacceptable that in 2026, a user invests hundreds of hours into a save only for a mandatory update to turn their progress into digital trash. In any other industry, a flaw that destroys the product after purchase would be grounds for a massive recall. In video games, EA simply calls it an inconvenience. seeing elite athletes transformed into bald models by an update, and many more errors due to these supposed updates that break the game more than they fix it. It is irrefutable proof that quality control has been sacrificed. The graphics engine is so saturated, so at the limit of its patch-upon-patch capabilities, that something as basic as texture rendering collapses under its own weight. They have sewn together so many parts of old games that the body can no longer sustain itself. But who allows this impunity? To understand it, one must follow the money trail. We find ourselves at a historical turning point. Electronic Arts is in the middle of a transition process following the massive acquisition agreement by Saudi Arabia. Although the definitive closing of the operation is scheduled for this year, the shadow of its priorities is already projected over every line of FC26 code. This is not a conspiracy theory, but a financial reality of the market. When a company prepares to pass into the hands of investors who demand capital returns that defy the laws of economic logic, the technical polish of the game becomes a hindrance to cash flow. The order is clear: maximize value before and during integration. This pressure has accelerated the product's transformation into a virtual casino. The goal is no longer to retain the player through fun or innovation, but through compulsive retention. These investment funds are not looking for the best football simulator. They are looking for the most aggressive and efficient monetization algorithm on the planet. FC26 is the direct result of this mentality, an environment designed to generate anxiety, where the solution to your frustration always seems to be conveniently located behind a micropayment. Football is just the bait. The trap is a reward system that mimics, with surgical precision, the psychology of high-stakes gambling. We come to the thorniest point: the shepherds of the community, the pro players and streamers. A toxic symbiosis exists between the company and high-profile content creators. Do not be fooled by their shouts of indignation. They are fundamental pieces of the machinery. EA uses these individuals as dynamic billboards. By collaborating with clubs like Manchester City or Real Madrid to validate statistics, they create an illusion of sporting legitimacy. Streamers, especially those in the Anglo-Saxon market, dictate the meta, that set of broken moves and glitch tactics that everyone ends up replicating for fear of being left behind. They don't play football, they play to exploit the code, and when the company grants them exclusive benefits, real criticism vanishes. It is hostage marketing. They cannot bite the hand that feeds them content, so they complain about the server while continuing to sell the idea that the next special player will save your gaming experience. The greatest collateral damage of this alliance is the extermination of the casual player, the one looking for a match to relax after a day's work. That user finds themselves in an environment balanced for the 0.1% of the population who have pilot-like reflexes and military-grade connections. The game has been e-sportified to the point of competitive absurdity. There is no longer room for the organic flow of football, only for the mechanical execution of commands. If you don't know the latest animation error discovered in London 10 minutes ago, you don't stand a chance. The essence of the beautiful game, the pause and the tactics, has been destroyed to turn it into a frenetic coracles, where the one who spends the most and dedicates the most hours of grinding is the one who survives. It is a false meritocracy based on the exploitation of the system. We reach the close of this autopsy, but before issuing the final verdict, we must look into the abyss that Electronic Arts' own leadership has revealed. The company's CEO, Andrew Wilson, has been unusually honest in his recent statements. The future of this saga does not belong to the designers, but to generative artificial intelligence. Wilson promises a revolution of efficiency, ensuring that AI will allow for content to be created 30% faster. But let's analyze this with the coldness it deserves. For a company that already recycles 90% of its assets annually, what does that extra 30% mean? It does not mean innovation. It means the automation of mediocrity. We are entering the era of algorithmic obsolescence, where stadiums, faces, and animations will be generated by a machine that does not understand football. It only understands pixel patterns. The result will be a game with the soul of a spreadsheet. But the darkest point of this vision of the future is the use of AI for personalized monetization. EA is perfecting a system capable of analyzing your behavior in real time, not to improve defensive response or fix input lag, but to identify the exact moment your frustration reaches the breaking point. EA's AI is being trained to be a psychological predator. It knows when you've lost 3 matches in a row, it knows which icon card you're eyeing on the market, and it knows exactly when to offer you a promo pack as if it were a balm for your defeat. It is a consumer engineering designed so that the user never has total control of their impulses. So why do we come back? Why would anyone dedicate 150 hours to software that despises their time and uses cutting-edge technology to exploit their weaknesses? The answer is monopoly. EA Sports has kidnapped our licenses, our stadiums, and our idols. We don't play FC 26 because it is technical excellence. We play because it is the only place where our colors exist, and EA knows it. They have become the owners of the stadium and, now, with AI, also the owners of our will. The future is not encouraging. As long as microtransactions continue to break revenue records, there will be no incentive to fix the Frostbite engine's physics. The destiny of the saga is to become a high-definition betting app, a sterile environment where football is just a distant memory buried under layers of financial algorithms. Unless, of course, the user decides that their dignity is worth more than a shiny card in a database that will reset next year. But until then, we will be here, reporting from the ashes of what was once the beautiful game. I am Edward Miller. Good night, if the algorithm allows it.